back. It's Smoking and Toasting, and we are so thrilled to have you here for show number 136. By the way, to any of my friends who are, musicians who are working on recording your album, you're in the studio and you're working on it, continue to work on your drum sound until it's that good. Until it's as good as it. Because if you do, you will come out with something really terrific. And I'm always a little disappointed by the drum sounds in a lot of the custom, off-label type stuff from independent bands. A lot of times it's like, come on, guys, work on the vocal sound and the drum sound, and you'll do so much better. You got so much to offer, you know. And when I say the vocal sound, I don't mean the singer. I mean the recorded vocal, the quality of the recording. Yeah, I don't know where that came from, but welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. I just love those drums. I guess
sounds great.
It really is. This is show number 136. We're doing the Craft Beer Report 2019. We'll be talking about trends and the health of the craft beer industry. Some very interesting things happening. Plus the debut of the featured douchebag of the month, and we will also be talking with Paul from the Heights Cigar Lounge as we do another installment of Smoking and Toasting recommended shops. But in the meantime, let's do our first beer tasting. Ian, I'm going to grab some cups. Maybe you can show the beer to the camera.
No Label El Hefe.
By the way, No Label is a great brewery out of Katy, Texas. Katy, a suburb just to the west of Houston. Yes. These guys have produced some fine
They're so
beers.
Experimental, too.
They really
have
are.
So many series out there. They just try everything. And their beers are always a surprise. They have a few staples in their list of beers, but they will try anything. They're like, you can go in anytime to one of the liquor stores and find a new bomber of some other ridiculous thing that they've decided.
I love the nature of them being so experimental, and I think we're seeing that as one of the trends that we'll get to in a little bit with craft brewing is it's breweries are becoming much more experimental. It's not about just we need an IPA, we need a porter, we need a red ale. You know, yes, those things are all true, but now you're finding them experimenting with all kinds of different things. So the El Hefe. And I'm going to grab another cup here.
Oh, yeah.
There we are.
We're going to pour this in there, and then I'll show everybody.
So this is a familiar beer aroma to you. The
yes. So El Hefe, by the way, for those of you who aren't Spanish-speaking, is Spanish for the Hefe.
Yes. It's really good that we're so multilingual on this show.
Actually, it means the boss.
Yeah, it really does. But El Hefe is, honestly, it's like that's the greatest Hefeweizen name ever. I really believe. So,
and I will also tell you, there are Hefeweizen is not my favorite style of beer.
I agree with you. It's not one. It's not a default for me. I enjoy drinking one occasionally.
There are two Hefeweizens out there that I dearly love. One, I believe, might be the best Hefeweizen ever made, and that's the Live Oak Hefeweizen.
That is good.
And I bet that if Brian is out there watching, he will chime in on that because I think he agrees with me on that. This is the next one.
Really? It's very interesting, yeah.
These are the two that I think are just absolutely amazing. Now, I'd like can you go ahead and go over to the beer cam for me? Because I would like to unveil something here.
Okay, before we do the tasting.
Drum roll, please. Oh, no. For those of you who can't see exactly what this is.
What is that? It looks like a round disc.
This right here.
It's moving, though.
Is a device specifically made for our purposes here.
Yeah.
That's right.
Ian, that's brilliant.
This is a beautiful thing. Now, this is a little bit higher tech than our previous beer turning device.
Yes.
Which looked very much like my fingers.
Yes, that's exactly right.
But so right now on the beer cam, as you can see it coming around, El Hefe.
This feels so Home Shopping Network right now, doesn't it?
This is pretty awesome. Now, one of the things that this does as well is it also has a higher speed. So there we go.
You can go into turbo there and
we're in turbo mode. So if you read fast now, you can really look at this can this way.
Next, we have to come up with some real sexy lighting for the beer can.
Well, I haven't gotten a little mini disco ball to put above it yet. But we're going to have to create, I think, an environment for this with its own camera at some point.
So let me mention that having just taken my first sip of El Hefe, I think I can understand why this one has made your favorite list with Hefeweizens, because it is almost like a banana beer.
It's a bomb, yeah. It's a banana bomb.
It's just got such rich banana flavorings to it and a very a very pleasant banana too, not a sort of
not a sickly
musty,
sweet banana,
sickly sweet banana, but just very, very pleasant banana. A little bit of wheat, and it's got.
And you notice it doesn't have a lot of that dankness that some Hefeweizens get.
It's actually very refreshing and clean.
It's a very refreshing beer and nice, and it stands up. I know this for a fact. It stands up to all this when it warms up too. We're drinking it very cold right now, but when it warms up, there's no problems drinking this beer.
I'm loving it.
You will get a little more of the darker flavors, and it brings in a little more like almost darker fruit once it warms up. But it's still, this is an outstanding Hefeweizen. They did a great job on this, and I can see why it's been, since No Label's inception, it's been one of their staples.
One of their bigger sellers, I think. Is that right? Yep. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
This one, if anyone has No Label in their store, this is one that they will have.
Craft beer is, it's interesting watching, No Label has been, and this is just a guess, but I'm guessing they're 5-6 years old. Probably as a brewery, have they been in that neighborhood? So many craft breweries are 2 years old or less, because so many have opened in the last several years. Particularly the smaller brewing brew pub style breweries, which has been one of the big trends in the whole craft beer industry. But No Label, I think they're an example of a brewery that's kind of at that sweet spot. In other words, they've been around just long enough that they've, been able to get some distribution and get their products, earn their street cred, but they're still new enough that they're not, they're not having the kind of struggles that, say, a Sam Adams or Sierra Nevada, some of those guys are having, with just people almost taking them for granted while they go search for
Well, I have
stuff.
to admit, I'm one of those people, like, I forget just how good that beer is because it's always there.
You're absolutely right. And the last time that I had a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, I thought, I should be drinking this all the time. I mean, this is a great beer.
The other night I was in a store, and there were many beers there, but I was in the mood for it. I picked up a 6-pack of Fat Tire because I go, you know what?
And there's another
so
great beer. And you know what I love about Fat Tire is it's a beer that goes very well with cigars.
Yes.
There is a sort of a chocolate undertone, malty chocolate undertone to it that just really works with and
any cigar.
And it's got some hoppiness, but it's not enough that it that it gives you that harshness which fights with the cigar.
No, it's enough to add aroma and enough to clean up the finish on the maltiness really nice. And it's just.
I'm guessing this El Hefe would be a nice beer with a cigar.
I don't know if I've ever had it with a cigar, but I'm willing to bet it would too. Those banana flavors would go good with most anything. I can't see it clashing. I think that if you were smoking something like a Ruination or something like that, it might bury this.
It might bury the beer a little bit. Ruination's going to bury almost anything. You got to really, really have something tough to stand up to that.
Like that, you just got to have an old granddad with that.
Let me give you some numbers here, Ian. $27.6 billion. That's how much money was spent on craft beer in 2018.
Congratulations, U.S.
Yes. It's a 7% increase over 2017. Now, I don't know what it's like in the industry that you guys work in, but I'm going to tell you that a 7% increase is pretty strong. So I'm really getting tired of reading these articles online about the demise of craft beer because it wasn't a 13% increase. Dude, do you know how strong it is to be where craft beer is right now and to have a yearly increase of 7%? This is on total money spent. So it takes into account everything that's craft beer and the money that was spent on it. So it doesn't matter whether the prices went up or down. Doesn't matter. This is just total dollars spent. I think that's pretty.
Let's put it in these terms for a second. If you owned your own company, and what you do, if you own your own company and you are showing a 3 to 4% increase steady every year, would you be upset with that?
Not at all. Not in this business environment.
Yeah, I mean that's going up, and going up is good. If you were doing 5% last year and it goes down to 4% this year, are you going to be upset? Wish we'd have done better, but frankly, still increasing.
Yep. That's right.
So, and I think that's part of it. To make news, you have to doom and gloom a lot of things, and that's just one of the things.
I think you're right. It's clickbait.
You see,
it's clickbait. 25.9 million That's how many barrels of beer craft brewers produced in 2018.
And a barrel is a lot of beer.
Yeah, that's a 0.6% volume increase in share, not in number of barrels, but in share. In other words, craft beer in 2017 was 12.6% of the market. In 2018, it was 13.2% of the market. So when you're talking about market share, that's a pretty substantial increase as well. Craft beer volume grew 4%. Whereas the beer market overall, everything, craft beer and everything else included, the market overall was down 1%. So you've got such a decline that the entire market is down 1%, and yet craft beer inside that was up enough to be up 4%. I mean, that's a big deal as well. Again, the articles that are really waving the flag about craft beer's demise, I don't get where they're coming from. Nothing grows at an exponential rate forever.
I wonder if they're sponsored by
by Big Beer?
By Big Beer.
Probably. Here's really the number I think that floored me the most, though, in this report. 7,346. That is the number of craft breweries in the United States.
Holy Toledo.
7,346 craft breweries with an estimated 1,049 opening in 2018.
Wow.
So 1,049 opened in 2018. Now, 219 closed. So you can subtract that if you want, but that's still an enormous increase. And it speaks to about part of what we talked about, which is that a lot of the growth in craft brewing right now has been the smaller guys. It's been the guys who opened up the tap room and they brewed a few styles of beer and started booking some bands and, putting some horseshoe games out in the parking lot, and everybody comes around and it's become a place. In fact, I read an article just this week that there's a major restaurateur and bar owner who's based out of Dallas that is really upset and trying to petition to get the laws changed about craft breweries being able to open their own tap rooms. And it's because he says it's going to hurt bars, is what he says. That's how strong the tap room movement is.
Well, so the tap room at a beer place is somewhere you can bring a lot of places. Somewhere you can bring a dog, you can bring the family, you can hang out.
It's a different vibe.
They have events,
Yep, it's a different vibe.
Like I'm riding with the Eureka Heights team. They have beer and yoga.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have things like that going on up at their
really
brewery
cool.
all the time. I mean, come on. You have a place that's in your neighborhood that makes great beer. You can take some of that beer home because they have it, in a fridge with the crowlers and stuff like that. They can do all these things, and that's a great place to hang out. Now, are you just going to go hang out at a bar? I get it.
Yeah.
Like, that's fun.
I enjoy that too, but it's a different kind of environment, it's a different kind of vibe, and I'm walking distance where I live from Eighth Wonder.
Yes,
and it's just a fun place to go. It's a really fun place to go. A couple more numbers for you. We're seeing openings outpace closings about 5-1.
That's
awesome. Based on what happened last year, and the report notes a lot of growth in New York, Texas, and Florida, particularly with breweries opening. Taproom sales are up. Overall, they're estimating 3.1 million barrels of beer were sold directly to consumers in taprooms in 2018. The smallest brewers are seeing the most success. So it's really, really an interesting thing, really an interesting thing to watch.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So those are some of the numbers. We'll get into some of the trends coming up in the next segment. Oh, but the next segment is going to be one that I'm really excited about because we get to share our conversation with Paul, who didn't like me very much at first, from the Heights Cigar Lounge. But Paul's an awesome guy, and we're thrilled to make his shop one of our Smoking and Toasting.
I just want to introduce this.
Shops.
I was talking with Paul when you were off doing other stuff at one point in time. And he was
This is when we were in Honduras.
Right. And he was asking about, okay, so we're going to do an interview. What are we doing? I was like, don't worry about it. It's just casual. It's conversation. I said, however, and I told him the story. Mm-hmm. And I said, we got to bring this up. And he was dying.
So the story is that
he was dying to tell you.
Very early on in the life of this show, maybe like when we'd done 3 or 4 shows, I had actually gone in and inquired at the Heights Cigar Lounge because I really liked it. It was a very cool place. I'd inquired about us maybe coming in and doing a show there. And I couldn't imagine why. Forget how many listeners we had at that point. If we had 10, that's 10 people who would hear about the store. You know, it wasn't going to cost them anything. But I inquired about our doing the show there and was kind of rebuffed, shall we say, and told, so I was a bit put off by it because I couldn't see why they would turn it down. It was basically free publicity for them. But for a while, I didn't go back to the Heights Cigar Lounge. I'll just say that. But now my boycott, if you will, it wasn't a boycott, but now my personal issues with them are a thing of the past, and you'll see why in the interview that comes up. But Ian had a lot of fun, kind of setting me up.
Oh, that was a blast.
It was really good. So that's coming up. Plus, we'll be doing a little bit more tasting, including Fire, Skulls, and Money. I'm really looking forward to tasting this IPA from Toppling Goliath Brewing. So we will be back at Smokin' and Toastin', show number 136. Thank you for joining us. Oh, I know this. Yeah, I could tell he was so excited for his interview.